You ready?
So what am I doing?
Well, I'm gonna do our intro that we do. How do we do this? How do I do this? No,
Let's play the intro.
let's play the intro live. So basically, I just say I'm gonna say the number of episode we're on, and then introduce you, and then we'll pretty much just get straight into the questions that I'm about to make up. Okay. So this is episode
11.
11.
11.
This is episode 11 of Los Mariachi Sagas. We have our second guest ever. We're here with Mr. Alex Ramirez, aka Mr. Bossman. What else do they call you?
I don't know if you can say it on here.
No, but so we're here with Matt, Alex Ramirez from Austin, Texas, and myself, recording in Austin, Texas, our number 2 city. Alex has been in the mariachi scene in Austin since nearly the beginning, right? Because you weren't a part of the first group that started, but you were around when they started. Is that right?
When you say the first group, what do you mean?
Like, I mean, I mean the first mariachi group in Austin.
Oh, okay. No, I came in, the first group here in town that I'm aware of was Mariachi Estrella.
Right.
And I believe there was like maybe the mid-70s, 1970s. And I came out of the high school, or the junior high school program. So that was in the 80s, 81, I think. 81 through 85.
Mm.
And then mariachi.
And so then you started mariachi in middle school.
Yes.
And was music a part of your family, or was that
No.
it was just you, the first person?
Yes.
And so now, well, your son plays.
Yes.
But your daughter doesn't.
No.
She didn't get a feel for the music.
No, she tried to get him banned. She played trumpet for 1 year, I think, 6th grade or 7th grade, one of those two. And she was very active in softball. So I got divorced, and after I got divorced, my ex-wife remarried, and he was real big in softball. And so my daughter was little, and he figured that she should get into some type of sport. And I guess she was maybe, I don't know, 7 years old, somewhere around there. So by the time she got to 6th grade, she had already done softball, for several years. So she thought she'd take a band and do trumpet, and it just didn't work out. She went back to doing softball.
Yeah, nowadays, like a lot of kids, especially around that age, or like even high school, like I did both mariachi and I did baseball too, sports too. But a lot of kids these days do a lot of extracurricular activities. Like I know I also did a bunch of other stuff too in high school. I can't even remember now. It's so far away now. But
Getting old.
but I didn't know that I would end up sticking with mariachi right after high school. So
Yeah, I mean, you never really know. I honestly saw myself playing college sports, and that was my goal, my dream. But I kept injuring myself, and I was like, but I never saw myself as a pro athlete. So I was like, and then I saw, well, music. I knew you could make music with mariachi. I didn't start playing for until I was 18, until my senior year or towards the end. But I was like, no, I mean, sports is great, but
yeah,
you could just get a lifelong injury. But so you said you started mariachi in middle school, right? And that was with Mr. Zeke Castro.
Correct.
Was he one of the, I guess, original mariachis in the Austin area?
No, he actually went to the reason we had the program in middle school was because he went to California and he was introduced to mariachi. He was in the orchestra in California. And Mark Fogelquist had asked him, because Mark was in the orchestra, had asked him if he's ever played mariachi. So that's how Mr. Castro got indoctrinated into mariachi music. He ended up coming to Austin, and when the, I guess, superintendent or I guess the superintendent or the school district or something like that, once they found he was going to teach orchestra, and once they found out that he had some mariachi background, then the school district decided to create a class, a mariachi class. And I was in 7th grade at the time. And he came in and he's like, we're going to do this program. It's going to be music related. It's called mariachi. And I'm looking for people to be in the program. And so I volunteered for the elective, right? Mariachi. So I did that in my 8th grade year. And I didn't really know about mariachi, but at the same time I did. I remember in 5th grade, a long time ago, my uncle bought an album which was Pedro Rey y Los Galleros.
Yeah.
And I remember listening to the album and hearing the music, but I wasn't like, oh, I want to do this. Once I got into the 8th grade level mariachi class, I started hearing it, and that brought back, oh, okay, that was what they were playing in that album. I didn't know who Pedro Rey was in Los Galleros, right? But I found the album, and I listened to the album, and I made the two connection right. And then at the same time, that was the whole 8th grade program. And that's how Zeke got involved. Mr. Castro got involved with the mariachi program in 8th grade. And at the same time, he did it in the high school.
Wow.
Okay, so was that, as far as you know, the first mariachi program in the school system in Austin?
I think San Antonio had, with Bel Ortiz and Juan Ortiz, I think they may have had maybe the year prior or maybe 2 years before that. And I don't know if that was related to us in Austin, that's why they did the program or not. But I know we were in the early school programs.
So it was starting to grow in Texas at that time.
Yes.
And this was the 80s?
Probably, yeah, 79, 80, 81, somewhere around there.
Oh, okay. And I remember you had said that you were a part of like the first Mariachi Extravaganza conventions in San Antonio.
Yes.
And what was that like? Because you had instructions from, some of the great members of Vargas back in the 70s. What was that experience like in being one of the first conventions there? Because now it's a huge, national thing that people from all over the country go to.
Yeah, that was an experience. I think my first year, I didn't really appreciate it because I didn't know what it was. All I knew is we were going on a school trip. Like, yeah, let's go.
Yeah.
I think we did Wednesday through Saturday, if I remember correctly.
Wow.
And we went to the classes, and they had all the trumpets, and of course they break everybody out in sections. And we were at a hotel. I don't remember which hotel it was, but I went into the section where they had the first part trumpet players. And Federico from Vargas, he said, okay. He said, of course he spoke Spanish, so it was in Spanish. He said, let's go. We're going to go rehearse our parts for the songs. And so we follow him. He takes us to the alley. We're in the alley. But there's only there's 5 of us, 5 trumpet players and Federico. And he played Bonito Tecalitlán, and he played it just the way it's played. And he's like, okay, like, your turn. And we were like, what? So that experience was a little bit different. Like I said, I didn't know what to expect that time.
Mm-hmm.
But we did see them perform. And that's when it was like, wow, that's mariachi.
Mm-hmm.
So then you went every year after that then?
We did every year. We went, I think it was 9th, 10th, 11th. I don't think we went our senior year, because our senior year, we got to take the trip to Orlando, to Walt Disney World with Mariachi Cobre.
Oh, okay.
So we were, I guess, in a sense, they were hosting the mariachi. I don't know the exact details of that. I know that we did play one time, I think, in Disney World, but we got to see. They took us, downstairs and how they have Walt Disney World and their performance. And of course, they're excited because they just started maybe a couple of years before that.
Yeah, that's when Cobre was just starting out at Disney. They got their big contract.
Yes.
You stuck with mariachi then, throughout middle school and high school.
Yes.
And did you know that basically you're gonna keep doing mariachi?
No.
It's kind of gonna be a career in a way.
No, because you guys now, there's so many groups out there, and I think what made it real big was YouTube. But before that, it was only the group that was here, and by that time, Estrella was the first one, and there was another church group, and it was a family, which was Mariachi Guadalupanos, and so those were really the only two that I knew locally, aside from the album that I had mentioned earlier, and the few albums from Mariachi Vargas. So I didn't think this was playing music and making money. I thought, well, it just didn't make sense, right? Just thought, okay, get a job. But at the time, Estrella, I think they were fairly busy because of the Austin program. With the high school program, we did a lot of performances. One of the good things about it was when I was in high school, they would have these programs all over Austin. And because we were a mariachi, they would say, oh, let's get that group from Travis. Maybe they can entertain us.
Mm-hmm.
So we were able to leave the school quite a bit. There was no, we were like exempt. So
Wow.
they would say, oh, they got to perform so-and-so in the morning or in the afternoon or in the evening. And this is before they had the no pass, no play, or there was some kind of
the
rule.
Uh-huh.
That happened like maybe 2 years after I left high school. But we did so many performances, and at that time, and I guess because of that, that kind of grew. And I think with Estrella, I know Estrella played a lot at the time, and but I never thought because that was it. It was just Estrella and the family group Mariachi Guadalupanos, and I thought, well, I don't have any chance in either one, so I'm gonna go to work.
Dang. So what kind of rep did y'all play at that time?
It wasn't very much. It was a lot of what we learned in school, and maybe a few other songs outside of school that we learned on our own. There was no music. It was just you listen to
By
it.
ear?
Yeah.
You pull everything out?
Yeah.
I mean, that's kind of how we all start out, right? We don't, everybody starts from the bottom, but, like nowadays, especially people who get brought up into mariachi in the school systems, nowadays they're playing like all these big shows and everything. And we talked to actually Mike Guzman, our last guest, about it. It became normal for like school groups to not play like some of this old stuff. I guess what some people would call traditional music. So yeah, that's why I was kind of wondering, like, what kind of songs did y'all play at that time?
Yeah. So now it's different. I think I've told Alexis this before. Is that there's been a shift in mariachi music, and I think that really came about when Jose Hernandez, Mariachi Sol de Mexico, came out, because he started doing different types of arrangements, and that opened up a new field of composition or arrangements. And he created the Mariachi Sol de Mexico. He created his compositions and arrangements, but at the same time all that was happening, schools were starting to adopt mariachi classes, and especially South Texas. But you had California, New Mexico, Arizona, Texas, and it was all evolving. And then you started now more recently with Mariachi Nuevo Tecalitlan, because I know that with the high schools that I've seen in what you were just mentioning with the songs, what did you do? I do see these high school groups. And I mean, some of them are amazing. Like they're at a different level than what we were in high school. And like our big showpiece would have been like Fiesta en Jalisco, right? That would have been like, oh, you can do that one. And Cascabel, of course.
Mm-hmm.
So Cascabel was always, because of the instrumentation, the solos there.
Mm-hmm.
But that was like as far as our bigger showpiece. Now, I think these groups and even like the high schools, and they have the mariachi teachers that are able to write and arrange, and
Yep.
that they make it their own. So it's a lot different.
A lot different.
And that's why when you were asking me about the songs, like what
Mhm.
songs did y'all play?
Yeah.
And it was just the same, El Rey, Volver, La
Mhm.
Negra, but we never got out of that. And I think that with you guys are seeing a lot more, because all we saw was Vargas, and maybe
Mhm.
hearing Mariachi Mexico de Pepe Villa was another one, and really from what I remember, that's like a lot of the groups that we heard, aside from like Vicente Fernandez and Jose Alfredo Jimenez,
Mm-hmm.
in what you were saying about traditional, right? But I think
Mhm.
now it's a little bit different because there's more groups now, very, very good groups. And there's YouTube, and there's Spotify, and there's Apple. And so you guys hear all these arrangements, and we're in a different level. Like all these high school students, they're at a different level.
Mm-hmm.
And what I do see is that they are passionate.
Yeah.
So that really helps out in producing the music, just like with Texas State, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Because you guys have a show, you guys prepare for it, you guys practice for it, and I'm assuming, because the songs that I've heard, some of those are arranged.
Mm-hmm.
They may be a little bit different, so they're arranged just for you guys. So with that, it makes it your own, and especially when you guys get into it, that really shows. I went to one of the Christmas shows one year. I don't remember which show it was, but I did notice that when it was a Texas State Mariachi, it was like you guys were on.
Mm-hmm.
You guys were on.
Yeah, I think
Yeah.
John Lopez did a good job of making arrangements that were would fit us. A lot of directors try to do arrangements this certain style, not knowing that it won't fit their own group, and I think that's that's part of the job too.
You mentioned how Jose Hernandez was kind of part of the reason why this music has evolved, and how it's changed so much, but it wasn't really like accepted at the time. I mean, he was ridiculed by
They
other
got criticized quite a bit.
big name musicians, big mariachi musicians at the time. But I don't. But I mean, you still saw that music evolve. I mean, but what were some of the things that you did you ever hear of any criticism to Jose Hernandez?
So I remember we went to Albuquerque, and this was maybe in the mid '90s that we went to Albuquerque. So by that time, I was more interested in mariachi, and I thought, okay, let me hang out with all the cool guys from all the big groups and everything. And we were returning back from lunch from one of the workshops, and these guys are professional musicians. They're the ones that you hear on the records, and Mariachi Sol de Mexico was they were doing their sound rehearsal, right? And they were doing Labikina, the song Labikina. And one of them did make a comment saying that if Silvestre Vargas was to hear this, he would be turning around in his grave.
I think that's a famous one.
That is a famous one.
Yeah. But what was funny about that, I mean, Bikina itself is new and modern and different from mariachi what it was in Silvestre's time, or Gaspar's time.
Yeah, when they made that album La Bikina, La Nueva Dimensión, it was, for that album, it was out in left field. Because if you hear that album and you hear all those songs, it's not your traditional at the time. Now we hear it and we're like, oh, okay. And I think Rigoberto Alfaro, was it you at Texas State? Did you get to meet Rigoberto Alfaro?
We both met him.
You both met him?
Actually, I don't think.
Well, we met him in Albuquerque. But we
Was that there?
Yes, that was 2018. Remember Quintero introduced us to him.
I don't think it was there, dude.
What were you?
I don't remember.
But
I don't know where
yeah,
I went.
I mean, yeah, I've met Rigoberto.
Well, I think I guess with Rigoberto and Jesus Rodriguez, they had in changing the music. And so if you listen to that album, Labikina, you can tell it's what they call it. They called it a new dimension, La Nueva Dimensión. But it's a new dimension. And so you hear it and you're like, wow, okay, so it's a little bit different.
Mm-hmm.
And that was something that Vargas was not doing at the time. I guess maybe a little bit after that, they did when Cascabel came out and the other album and so forth. But yeah, La Bikina, it's... And from my understanding, I think you guys may have seen the video as well. But I think that... was it Jesus Rodriguez they had? I think he wanted to do something different musically. And Silvestre didn't want to go to that direction. So they had created another group. I don't know. I saw one of the videos and it kind of made sense a little bit. But
okay, yeah. But so then this Albuquerque, that was you're in high school already at this time, right? Or,
no, I was already out of high school.
Oh, you're out of high school.
Yeah.
So then you after you graduated, you continued with mariachi. You kept going with it.
Yeah, I started back up. So I can back up a little bit. So when I graduated from high school, I went to work. And I got married, and that's where Alexander and Vanessa, my daughter, had my 2 children. And after that, I guess several years later, I got divorced. And David Hernandez had invited me to Adolf's daughter's baptism.
Oh, okay.
And I went, and we were there, and then Adolf mentioned something about playing again. And I said, well, yeah, I kind of thought about it. But I had not played in that time. And I told him, he called me, I think, again, maybe 1 or 2 times, or David did. And they said, well, just come to a rehearsal. I said, okay, I'll go to a rehearsal. Took my trumpet and stuff. I hadn't played in years. And from that point on, I think that was, I don't even remember the year. But I stayed with them for... I don't remember, maybe 15 years or something.
You caught the bug again, huh?
With Estrella?
With Relámpago.
Or Relámpago.
Yeah. Well, I think there was a name change at the time. He had Mariachi Chapala, and I don't know exactly all the details what was going on, but by the time I went to rehearsal, it was me and, let's see, Gabe Bettis. Do you know Gabe Bettis?
The big voice, Gabe?
Yeah.
Yeah.
He was on trumpet, and I think we maybe rehearsed 1 or 2 times. And then after that, it was just me. And probably like 2 or 3 weeks in, Adolf says, I show up to the gig, and he's like, oh, by the way, you're the only trumpet player. I said, but I don't even know all the songs yet.
Yeah. They'll throw you in the fire like that.
It's been like that ever since. Like, I mean, even now, sometimes you'll show up, you're like, oh, the guitar player didn't show up, so you got to sing all the songs. You're like, you kidding? I'm still getting paid the same, right? They're like, yeah. I'm like, okay.
I'll take it.
So then you spent a lot of years with Relámpago there, and I mean, you guys were really, really busy with gigs and stuff. What was gigging like? What was this? The 90s now?
Yeah, it was probably maybe late 90s by then. Somewhere late 90s, going into 2000s. Adolf already had established Relámpago, and so, as I mentioned earlier, with Mariachi Estrella and Guadalupanos, and then we came on the scene. And I think at the time, maybe Mariachi Continental as well.
Mm-hmm. So there was about a handful of groups in Austin at the time.
Yes.
So what was the gigging like at that time? I mean, with very little groups, but there's still a big Mexican crowd and influence here in Austin at that time already.
Yeah.
So you're getting gigs all the time.
Yeah, we did stay busy. There was a lot of birthday parties, weddings, and we did restaurants as well. So that kept us busy. We did, if I remember correctly, we played Wednesday. At one point in time, I know that with Estrella and Relámpago, there was like a merge or something. I don't remember if that was before, after, what year or anything. But I know there was a small merge where we combined groups. And for that time frame, I believe that's when we were at a place called Jalisco Bar, which is where Barton Springs and Riverside area. And then we would play at La Feria on Thursdays. And then Friday we would play at, there's a place called Flores, and then Baby A's. And then Saturday we had our regular gigs. But even before all of that, there were still performances during the day. So I think that kind of spilled over, in my opinion, I think it spilled over from Mr. Castro being at school. Probably certain performances that he couldn't do anymore, he'd probably pass them to either Estrella or Relámpago.
Basically, you were a full-time musician.
Yes.
You didn't have another job.
No.
No. And was that I guess I mean it was probably a tough lifestyle. I mean, keeping up. I don't know how much you slept or partying too much. No, yeah, being full-time musician isn't it's not easy.
Yeah.
It's not easy. No, it's not easy.
Not easy.
There's a lot to do. I mean, you still have to.
I mean, you still have your kids.
You still have the kids, yeah. But we used to do a lot of talon. We used to go to places around town, and we'd just show up. And in the early days, we would actually have a list. I don't know who came up with the idea of having a list, but we would go to this place and they, do you know this? Do you know that? Do you know this? So somebody came up with the thought of a list, and they said, well, let's do this. Really, truthfully, I think maybe 20, 25, maybe 30 songs were on that list. And that's how we started learning more songs, because the customers would request, do you guys know this? Do you guys know this? At some point, we decided somebody's got to learn these songs if they're asking for it.
Yeah.
And that's how I believe I built more my repertoire, or singing wise, right? More songs learning that way, because the client would ask for it, and if they ask for 2 or 3 times, then you're like, well, somebody's got to learn it. And, that's how we picked it out by ear. So it was a little bit of work there. And then, of course, if we were going to learn something new, play something new, we'd have to practice. But the amount of performing that we did, and I was fortunate at one point because Raimundo Garcia, a very good trumpet player out of San Antonio, he was, in a sense, my mentor to be able to pick up a lot of stuff. And he taught me a lot of stuff by, just showing me, telling me. And that's why I started learning more the solfege, and because he would tell me everything, la si do, and he'd start going into doing all that. And at first I didn't catch on to what he was saying, but afterward I'm like, okay, I know what he's saying. I know la is A for trumpet, and do is C for trumpet. So he started telling me the notes, and there's a lot of songs, and maybe that's why I keep forgetting them sometimes, because I just learned them by memory and just from what he showed me, versus me looking at an actual sheet of paper where the music's there, and then I practice it and rehearse it and so forth. But he was instrumental in me learning a little bit more on the trumpet, and then, of course, just taking out the songs by ear.
So do you find it, like, now, do you ever go back to those old ways of just pulling things out by ear, or you just pretty much just read it? Because I'm not gonna lie,
I got lazy, man.
Just went.
The amount of times, probably way too many times. I shouldn't do this at all, but so I play, vihuela, guitar, guitarrón, whatever. Sometimes when it's a song that I know I'm gonna mess up, but I have the sheet music too. I'll
just pull it out.
I'll put it on my phone, put it on my instrument, and read it.
Yeah.
But
it's crazy.
Sometimes you gotta do that, or else you're gonna mess up.
One of the great things that we had back then, I think, because we had so many restaurants and performances, is that if we practice a new song, we could practice it Wednesday, we could practice it Thursday, Friday, Saturday at the gigs, and then polish it up as we're going, right? Because there were times that we'd learn songs, like I'd learn a song and trying to memorize the words, and then when you're actually at the gig, especially the first time, you fumble the words and you go backward and you go forward, and the horse is dead and el caballo blanco, and then he comes back to life at the end.
Confuse the verses.
You don't know how badly I messed up Botas de Charro one time. I think you were there, Matt. It might have been. It was with compadres. So the lyrics are.
Oh yeah, I remember that.
The lyrics go. The real words are: Y un día me gritaste, me gustan los hombres, me aburren los niños. That's not what I said. I said me gustan los niños, me aburren los hombres. That's what and then I was like, oh, that's not right.
And what would that translate to?
Yeah, Alexis, what does that translate to?
I don't know English.
You don't know?
But so after all your years in Relampago, I mean, you took a break, right, from mariachi?
Yeah, I took a break
for quite a while. What was that like? It was just kind of a decision where you're like, I just want to do something else, or you got tired, or?
Yeah, at the time, I think that there was some. I know that my son and Olin, you know Olin, right?
Yeah, so
Chavez. Mm-hmm. They left the group because in Adolf would do a pay scale, so he would have. If you didn't know that much, you'd earn less, and then if you earned a lot, I mean, if you knew more songs and you sang more songs, you'd get paid a little bit more, right? Or I guess the most. Or tenured, I guess. And so there was something about that, I think. And then I don't know all the details, but anyway, my son ended up leaving the group in Olin. And I had already thought about leaving probably like maybe 6 months to a year before that. And I stayed on. I stayed on mainly for my son because he was going to be there. Mm-hmm. But then once he decided to leave in Olin, well, that made it a lot easier for me to leave there. So I guess it's that father protection, right? That if I leave, well, they're going to stay behind, but I got to stay there till, something. But that I left at that time, and that was pretty much about it.
And you spent some time living a civilian life.
I lived the civilian life. Yes, I did.
What was that like having a Saturday with no gigs for the first
It's
time?
weird. I don't know if you guys will experience this or have experienced this, but after playing for so long, the Thursdays come and the Fridays come and it's quiet. And the Saturdays come and it's quiet. And you're like, well, what do I do all day long? What can I do?
Yeah.
And I know that it's from moving from a musician to just civilian life or, not doing music anymore. It's a big shift and you're going to miss it. But at the same time, if you made that decision to move on, then you're going to move on.
Yeah. You ever just pick up the trumpet just for kicks?
No, not during that time.
No.
No.
Well, then how many years did you stay away from mariachi then?
I don't remember exactly how many years, but that brought me to, I had to get a real job at that point. So I got a job and I worked for a company, and then that company actually went out of business. And so the individuals that I work with at that business, they said, hey, we're applying at, there was a mortgage servicing company. And they said, they're looking for people. I said, okay. So I went, I got hired, and I stayed there. And that paid very well until that company sold off the mortgage servicing side. But I didn't do mariachi at all during that time. I just did my 40 hours of work and came home and enjoyed the weekends and the weeknights. Got to watch television. I missed out on all those television shows, so I was catching up on all the Seinfelds and all that.
Yeah, then eventually you decided to come back. So you couldn't stay away.
Couldn't stay away. And that was by accident.
It was an accident.
You just picked up your trumpet one time and you're like, oh.
Whoop.
That was by accident.
You tripped.
And then you find yourself with the traje on. How did this happen?
And then put a sign out, I need some musicians.
Yeah. Oh.
But when you came back, did it feel different? I guess in terms of music or musicians, did it feel like a different type of world, the mariachi?
And not the music side, more the marketing side. When the mortgage servicing company closed, I was lucky that I got my severance pay plus a bonus retention check as well. Plus, my unemployment kicked in. So I had all this money. I say all this money. It was good money. And I thought to myself, what I do? So all that time working 40 hours and at the bank, and it was a lot of work. It was a lot of stress. I thought, you know what? Let me just search for jobs, do my weekly duties for unemployment, and take it easy. It's December 1, and I'll take the month off. And that was my mentality. And I got, my unemployment, and I was living okay. I didn't have any issues. And come about, I don't know, the next year, February, March, somewhere around there, after exploring being an underwriter at other places, I thought, well, what if I just do mariachi again? And what if I do it full time again? What would that look like? And I searched and I looked, and I started looking at Facebook, and because all that Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, and I thought, okay, maybe if I do a mariachi, and then maybe if I market it that way, then maybe I'll get more gigs. That was my mentality. That was my thinking. And I thought, well, since I have money right now, I can, put money in ads and all of that. So I did that. I did one, third party. And with that, I put in there, if everybody wants to know how I got Mariachi Amor, do you know? Did I tell you?
What? How you got the name?
The name Amor, A-M-O-R?
I don't remember. Wait. Yeah, it doesn't have to do with your name.
Yeah, pretty good.
Yeah.
So the way I came out with, because I didn't know what to call it, right? I was smart enough to know it's got to be 4 letters. I don't want this long name, right?
Yeah.
And it's got to be easy. It's got to be easy. So I was looking for a 4-letter word. I almost went with Mariachi Azul. That was
That would have been bad.
in the top 2. And for some reason I got a pen and paper, and I put my initials, AMR. And the first thing I thought, in reversing, scrambling the words, I thought, well, I can put RAM, R-A-M, Mariachi Ram. Yeah. Or Mariachi Mar, M-A-R. My initials are A-M-R. So I could put RAM, and then I thought, well, what else? And for some reason, I thought, what if I put an O? And the first thing that came to my mind was Roma. Roma. And I thought, what about Mariachi Roma?
Or Omar.
Or Omar. You know what? I didn't think of Omar. And then I moved the letters around, and then I thought, oh, A-M-O-R, Amor.
Yeah.
I said, hey, that's 4 letters. Got my initials. It's exactly what I want.
Wow.
So that's how I come up with Mariachi Amor. So I came up with a name, and then I registered, with DBA, and then I went online, and I went to go get all the social media handles. So everything is at Mariachi Amor.
And
So I was smart enough at that point.
There was no other group with that, right?
No,
With that name?
not that I know of. I did a search. I know that I did search, and then going through YouTube and Google search and so forth, and I didn't find anything with that name.
And that's how Mariachi Amor was born.
That's how I was born.
The end.
The end. Thank you for joining this podcast.
See, and so when you started Mariachi Amor, what was this, 2013?
2013. Yeah, 2013.
2013.
2013 going into 2014.
And the first couple years, was that a rough experience starting the group?
It was a rough experience in finding musicians, because you guys got to think, in a sense, I created it out of thin air, because I didn't ask players first. I didn't say, hey, can you help me? I want to make a group and this. And I didn't go through that. I thought the marketing side of it first. I thought, okay, what's the name going to be? What's my social media going to be? And what kind of photos am I going to put up there? And how am I going to get gigs? We're in a different... I was smart enough to know that we were in a different world. It wasn't no more put your number on a... I don't know if you guys know what the yellow page...
we know.
Directory, yellow page directory. I thought that's gone. And or putting it on Craigslist, right? And so I thought there's got to be a better way to market. And so, like I said, I did the third party one. I joined, and then I got a hit. Meaning, I'll tell you guys. So I put out there. It was a church function, and I charged them $500 for 4 musicians. And at that time, 2013, I think that was a lot of money because I think everybody's charging a lot less. But I put 4 musicians, 500, and they booked. And that's where the scary part was because I was like, okay, there's only me. Now I need to find players. But what ended up happening was because of that site, I started getting more gigs. And the gigs were coming in, but I didn't have musicians.
Mm.
And at the time, like, I had been out of the mariachi scene. I hadn't talked to anybody except for my son. But I had been out of the mariachi scene. And I thought, well, who can help me? And who can help me?
Mm-hmm.
I think Eli helped me. Tony Thompson helped me. Myself. That was early stages. Then once I started getting a little bit more gigs, I thought I need to put a group together or somebody's got to sign up and join.
Well, I would say from experience, there's no better motivator to, get players to come in than like having gigs, having work. I think that's a must. I think I've run into some of that trouble before. Just, because it's like you're telling people, hey, I want to make this group. They're like, well, do you have work? And so if you don't have work, I can't do it because, I need that money. That's the thing about mariachi is it's fast money, but you got to have it and work. Benefit.
I won't call Matt no more.
Don't call Matt because he wants his money. He wants his money before.
No, I'm just saying from my experience.
He wants to get it in Venmo like 2 days before. That way, by the time the gig hits, money's in the bank.
I want a deposit right now before I start the gig.
Yeah, you know how much I had to pay Matt to do this podcast? How much, Matt? What's your salary on this podcast?
What's your salary on the podcast?
Yeah.
From all the sponsorships.
I do all the editing, but Matt still gets 60%. You know how crazy that is?
Yeah, I just work here, man.
But no, you're right. I mean, all the musicians want to get paid.
Yeah.
And that's the important part.
Yeah.
And I didn't, I got lucky with, at the very beginning, because when all that was happening, like my first year was random individuals that would help me. After that first year, you guys know Mariachi Guadalajara?
Mm-hmm.
Rogelio and Polo?
Yeah.
By accident, they were in a different group, and that wasn't the accident, but by accident they were thinking of leaving. And I had a 7-hour gig on a Friday afternoon. It was a corporation, but it was broken up, right? They did morning, afternoon, and evening.
Mm-hmm.
But the morning one was fairly close, so they didn't go back home.
Mm-hmm.
And I talked to Rogelio, and I told him, I said, man, I got this work, but I don't have any musicians.
Mm-hmm.
And so we got to talking, and eventually it ended up that they left the group they were in, and they came to help me. So I got fortunate at that point. And then I just started booking left and right.
Mm-hmm.
Made it a whole lot easier. And I always sold it as a 4-man mariachi.
Mm-hmm.
Although technically I would have a larger group, but because I was barely starting, I thought, let me just keep it at 4.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, most groups start, the opposite. All these musicians and no gigs.
Yeah.
You
had a good problem in a way.
Yeah.
That was a good problem. I was fortunate to where, because of the marketing side of it, and of course there was a lot less groups back when I did Mariachi Amor. Now there's more groups.
Yeah, a lot more groups that have popped up the last couple years.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I've lived in Austin now the past 5 years, and I mean, there's like at least 3 groups a year that pop up. But so then you were really the only group or the only person hitting like social media and advertising heavy in the Austin area at this time.
Yes.
There's no other groups that focus on that, because I guess most of the groups at that time had already been established here for a while.
Yeah, and that's what I was fighting up against. I knew that Estrella had been around. I knew Relámpago had been around. Continental had been around. And I thought, I saw when Facebook and Twitter and all of that happened, I thought, you know what? That's where the new advertising is going to be. That's where your showmanship's going to be, and not so much showmanship, but that you can show the clients what you guys sound like, or photo, or whatever the case may be. And like I mentioned earlier, a lot of them were still doing putting their ad in the yellow pages, and or not advertising at all. And because I had that money when I finished the underwriting, my job, then I thought, let me spend a little bit of money. I'll tell you, I spent my first year, I spent $4,000. It was $4,400 my first year in just one, I guess they'd call it SEO, working on the SEO. And that was a learning experience, because I didn't get, for that one particular thing that I was trying to accomplish, it worked somewhat, but it didn't work as much as I thought it was going to work. And I thought, you know what, there's got to be other avenues. So, $4,400 was a lot of money, and I thought, I got to rethink this. So let me tell you, when I first started Mariachi Amor, going back to the money issue and the advertising stuff, I thought, nobody knows who Mariachi Amor is. So I got to figure out, how can I do this? And I thought, let me put my name in newspapers. So I put him in the circular newspapers. There was 2 of them here in Austin, the Spanish. And then I paid for the SEO, and then I paid for the other sites as well. And I got on Wedding Wire. It was called Wedding Wire at the time. Now it's Wedding Pro, I think, they combined. But it was on Wedding Wire. And so I thought, okay, let me use all this money. And all of that put together was what brought a lot of the jobs for Mariachi Amor.
Yeah,
even though I didn't have the players, but
that's a lot. It's a lot of work.
No, and so then comes 2015, and that's when I showed up.
yeah, I put an ad in the, I don't even know where,
It was
Facebook
on,
or something.
Comunidad, the San Antonio page for Mariachi. So there's this page on Facebook called La Comunidad de Mariachi, which is basically focused towards San Antonio, but in this area, where you can post gigs, or you're looking for musicians, or selling stuff, I guess.
Or if you're available.
Yeah, if you're available.
Alexis, I forgot you got listeners from all over the world.
We got all over
Literally.
the world.
I thought I heard one from some other country.
Yeah, we got a
Yeah.
couple from different countries. I don't know why, but I assume they speak English. So, what's up?
What's up? Yeah.
They still listen. I don't know, but yeah. So I got here 2015. I started my freshman year at Texas State, and I knew that I wanted to play. I knew I wanted to do gigs. I was like, I don't want to work at, I don't know, HEB, McDonald's, or whatever. I was like, because I knew I could play. I also knew I knew basically nothing. So I saw your post on the Facebook page saying you need a rhythm player to join your group, and I happened to be a rhythm player. And so the very first time I went out to play with you, Mariachi Amor was out in Dripping Springs in El Rey, and I remember it was me, you, Paula, Margie, and Olin. I believe it was us 5, and I had no idea what I was doing. I didn't know anything. I honestly, I couldn't play Labikina. I didn't know it. I only knew the Luis Miguel version because I was coming from high school where we just did show tunes, they call them. And and I remember like the next week where Paula didn't go, so it was just like 4-piece, and it was just 4 of us for a long time. We would, the El Rey is a 2-hour set, and so we play the first hour, take a break, the second hour play the same songs. And this went on for like a month, but also because I didn't know anything, and you know what, I just think that's crazy. Why did you keep taking?
Now that I think about it.
Oh,
Why did you pay? You want some money back?
Yeah, somebody back.
I thought I was going to pay for this podcast. No, yeah, I put the ad out there, and I was like, I need to get people, and so I put that ad. Raul Ruiz was with me at the time,
Mm-hmm.
and some things happened, and some things happened, and it wasn't either of our faults, but he had gotten lost at one of the gigs coming out of the gig, and we were already going to another gig. And so anyway, he had some issues with directions and so forth, and then he finally, called me the next, because he didn't make the other gigs, and he called me the following week, and he said, I don't know if I want to continue and so forth. I said, well, that's okay. I think for the most part, everybody that's ever been in Mariachi Amor, I don't think they've ever left upset or anything. Because to me, what I learned a long time ago is that if you don't piss people off, because you got the group and it's your name and whatever, but don't piss them off, because you may need them in the future. And especially with a limited pool of musicians, you cannot afford to do that, especially if you start burning, other musicians and stuff. But I told him, I said, you know what, that's okay. Whatever you want to do is good with me. Just let me know. And so he said, yeah. So I think probably a day or two after that, I put, maybe it was that week, maybe it was a week later. I thought, well, what can I do now? And so I put the ad in there, and then you came along, and you said you were going to Texas State. I said, oh, pretty good. I already knew Texas State had a fairly good reputation for musicians. And I thought, well, the songs with mariachi music, there's, of course, different levels, right? You can play the hard stuff or you can play the easy stuff. And with you coming in and with, being there at El Rey, and it was a restaurant performance, I thought, well, this will work out good. And so at the same time, I was like, can he play? What can he do? And that just started that, and then I'd see you, and then I'd see you, and you had the drive in the beginning. Now you don't. No, no, you had the drive in the beginning, right? You wanted to learn, and because I'm not a armonia musician, I could not tell you what to play or how to play it or rhythmic or anything. But I think. In showing you, I was going through some stuff at the house, and I was going to throw it away. And it was from 2016, I think. And I had wrote down, because we were meeting, I had wrote down to go over like 2 or 3 songs, something like that. I said, I'm going to show it to Alexis. Back when he didn't know these songs.
It's probably like Hermoso Cariño.
Yeah, but you caught on. I mean, after like the songs that we did, I don't know whether you went and heard them or you asked somebody or something, but you started picking up on certain songs. And of course, because we were doing it over. And like you said, it's the same set. And in my opinion, it depends when you can do the same set over and when you can't. I think that when you already have established clientele going to the restaurant, it's a lot harder for you to play the same thing you did the first half and the second half, because they're like, you already played that. But if you have a mix of individuals that go to the restaurant, and it's not always the same individuals, then you can kind of get away with having to do the first set and then do the second set and pretty much the same songs. But at the same time, it's to reinforce the new players to get used to the new songs. I know we didn't do it as often in Relampago, but we would like start off with a song, maybe the first one or the second one would be the new one. And then we'd play it again at the end of the second set or sometime in the second set.
Yeah.
But we'd kind of play it twice in one day. And if you're lucky enough to have, restaurant performances, I know right now with the pandemic, we don't have any restaurants, but if you're lucky enough to play like Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, or Thursday, Friday, Saturday, then that gives you time to play those songs.
Yeah. Good practice time.
Yeah.
I know when I joined, like I said, it was just 4-piece. I kind of didn't have a choice but to learn, because there was no guitar player I could look at or vihuela player to look at. And Margie, she plays very, what did you say, unorthodox is I guess the best word. And also she couldn't really help me herself. So it was like I gotta do it or I quit. And I was like, I'm not gonna quit. So I honestly don't remember. I guess I practiced. I probably did. And just kept learning, and eventually I started seeing those patterns, because in mariachi music there are so many patterns with boleros and rancheras. and I just kind of started picking that up, learning new songs. And I guess what helped me a lot was you would also take guys like I remember you took Eli a couple of times, and Tony and some other rhythm players. So I was able to see them. I would catch on quick, and then I started branching off and playing with other groups, and that was in a way a shock. Yes, because the way the clients that you have, you've built up your clients to your very comfortable gigs. uh, it's I mean it's different. It's how did I don't know how did was that your intention, I guess, going back in, or starting this group, kind of stay more towards those weddings, those corporate gigs?
Yeah, I got very lucky with the corporate gigs and doing more weddings. And what I focused on, I didn't even know about weddings too much. I mean, I knew a gig is a gig, right? You're doing this gig, you're doing that gig. But I started to realize that in the weddings, like, they prepay for everything. So, like, everything's paid even before you get there. So I thought, okay, I like that. And the issue, even in the past, I don't know about now, but in back then, you'd have to wait for the client, right? You have a birthday party, you were done, you had to go to the next gig, you had to wait for the client to get paid, and they're over there cutting the cake and singing happy birthday, and you're like, I gotta go.
Wait. Yeah.
I gotta go. So I started exploring more weddings. Like, what do they look for in a mariachi, right? And I'll give all your listeners or the mariachi directors
You're giving out your secrets.
My secrets. One of the things this is with weddings. One of the things that I learned with the wedding planners is that they get nervous, like they get anxious, because they already have a timeline. They know what time the bus arrives, the caterer arrives, the rental company, and so they have everything in order. And constantly they would tell me mariachis are always late. Mariachis are always late. Mariachis are always late.
Which is true.
and I thought, okay, how can I fix that? And so I thought, here's my secret part. What if I tell them that whoever hires us, right, if they're going to hire us, then I'll add a little bit more money so we can get there a little bit earlier. And I started noticing that the wedding planners were more calm, and they're like, man, you guys are early. Man, you guys are. So I started hearing that a lot. And because I started hearing you guys are early, then because it's just like mariachi, right? They all talk to each other.
Yeah.
So they would say, oh, you need to get these guys because they're always on time. They're always on time. They're always on time. So the reason I got a lot of weddings and we do corporate stuff really is because of the timeliness. And, I'm not saying all the other groups don't do it. I think that in the manner that the way you do it, you talk to them, you let them know. I don't do this as much. In the beginning I did, and this is more like the marketing side of it, but I would let them know, because I would have their phone number, and I would text them, and I'd tell them, hey, we're here, and to them, that anxiety goes down. And as long as I can make them feel good, then I know more than likely they're going to refer me. And that's what ended up happening. And that's why I started getting a lot of weddings, a lot of corporate gigs. And, of course, we did birthdays and everything else. But you guys now you guys have Venmo and Cash App and PayPal and Zelle. And so it makes it a lot better now. And going back to the weddings, when you get paid, you got paid in advance. Corporate always paid. Like, corporate they got money, right? They got money. Sometimes they don't want to spend the money because to them it looks like a big number. And then other times they'll pay it. So I started getting that crap. Before it wasn't like that. So I used to have a lot of birthday parties. So I didn't do that many weddings. It was more birthday parties. That's when Polo and Rogelio were with me. And, we do the 3, 4, 5, 6 hour gigs. And it was just because they had a repertoire, and really I was the one that was lacking in knowledge. I was learning as they were playing, because they would do so many songs, and I was just there listening. I was there playing, and we did get a lot of clientele. It switched. So by the time you came in, Alexis, I was already focusing more on the wedding side of it and the corporate side of it, and I knew that I needed musicians and to make it work.
I mean, great for me also to get in at that time where it wasn't as demanding with the repertoire. Because I mean, I know if I would have jumped straight into something like Mariachi Jalisco, it would have lasted the weekend. He wouldn't have called me back the next day. So I mean that worked out for everybody.
Yeah, that worked out well for you. I think for your situation, it worked out very well because you started here, and then you moved on, right? You went with was it Jalisco that you went after?
Yeah.
After me?
Yeah, so I was with Mariachi Amor for 3 years, and then I went to Mariachi Jalisco,
Yeah.
another group in Austin.
So that was a good preparatory for you. I mean, I'm sure with them you still had to learn a whole lot more songs.
Oh,
yeah.
every hour.
Yeah.
Having Leo scream at me every hour.
So there's a good and bad. You know, I don't know if you guys have talked about this in the podcast before, but I know that you have talon groups and then you have your well-rehearsed groups, and sometimes when you try and jump to the other side, then you get lost, right?
Yeah.
Because somebody that's polished and they're, especially you guys with Texas State with a metronome, you know, y'all are on that metronome and you're like, this is the way it goes, this is the way it goes.
Yeah.
And then you go with somebody that's talon and the tempo is all different variations.
Mhm.
You know, it's harder to mix because you're sticking with your metronome
Yeah.
and the other individuals not, right? I mean, they may have their own meter, what they're running, but it's a mix. And so when you learn when you're out there playing for song, because they call it piecework, right? Talon, it's, one song at a time.
Mm-hmm.
But I think if you did talon, and Alexis, I think you guys did this for a little bit, because I know I went 1 or 2 times with you.
Oh, yeah.
But if you go out and you start performing and you hear the clients tell you, play this song, and right? I don't think you guys have experience, but there are very few clients that will tell you, you're not a mariachi, you don't know the song, and so you see their attitude change, right? Because they're expecting you to play all these songs that they want to hear, and then you're throwing, let's do Mariachi Loco, let's do El Rey, and they're asking for something totally different.
Mm-hmm.
But going into the talon part of it is the best experience for learning a lot of music.
Yeah.
And then being that you can read music and rehearse, that makes you a good musician for a show group, right?
Mm-hmm.
A group that can play anything, right?
Yeah.
But it's just however you choose to walk that path,
Yeah, I had a pretty extreme on that spectrum, because they're playing with you guys in Mariachi Amor. I mean, I can't tell you the amount of times where we did a gig, or let's say I sang a song and I know I did not do well. I sang it either wrong, or I was off pitch, or messed up some chords, and then the people are just cheering and clapping. They go to, "Oh, you did so great!
Yeah.
It was amazing." And then one of my first couple weeks with Jalisco, I was singing a song, Paloma Negra, and the clients literally started like booing me, and they're like, "Get the other girl to sing," because we had a girl with us, and like they're just telling me that while I was singing, and I was just like, very different.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I've had, and at the same time, I do respect what they're saying, because this was early on in the Relampago years that we were playing, and like I didn't know the song, and the guy told me, he said, "Oh, you're not a trumpet player, you don't know mariachi, you don't know this, what are you doing here?" And telling me in Spanish, he goes, "You shouldn't even be here, and I shouldn't even pay you, and you don't know what." And it was a new experience for me, because I had not experienced that, but I knew enough not to argue back. So I just took it in, because technically he was right. I didn't know the music. I didn't know the song. I was not prepared. So, he had a reason. He had a very good reason, right?
Mm-hmm.
But at the same time, I don't think the way he approached,
Yeah.
and I don't remember if he was drunk or not, but I know that he came up to me and, just told me off on that one song.
Mm-hmm.
And but yeah, I don't know. I mean, it's a good experience, because it wakes you up to start thinking, I better practice. I better learn the song, especially
Or-
if it's a song that you've heard,
Mhm.
but you've never like practiced or did anything, and then you're like, well, yeah, I guess they have a reason.
Or you can just hand them the trumpet and be like, "Here, you play
Well,
it."
so
Here you go,
some
go.
musicians do that.
Yeah.
Some musicians
And
do
they're
that.
like-
They're like, well, here, you play it.
And they're like, "Oh,
No.
No.
But so I mean, even and then throughout all these years, you still kind of kept those clients, you know, with the weddings and the corporate gigs. So this pandemic must have hit you extremely hard, because I mean, all of it was shut down, especially weddings and
Mhm,
corporate gigs.
especially.
Yeah, I mean, it's still shut down. And we've done few weddings and we've done birthdays. I think probably more birthdays. And this is during the pandemic, so we're in October 1st, 2020. And the pandemic has hit all the musicians. And it's the way I looked at it, especially for the younger musicians, is that it's a perfect time for practicing, right? To learn more songs, to
For sure.
write the lyrics down, to practice all that, because it's I mean, the world shut down in a sense, and all those times that we say, oh, we're too busy, we can't do this, we can't do that. Now we had all this time. What I did in the same thing happened to us, right? So we didn't have any work. All the weddings, because that happened in mid March that they close.
Yeah, so it was mid-March.
Yeah, and I remember at the restaurant they told me we'll let you know what's going to happen next week. I said okay, and that was spring break for Texas State.
Yes. Yeah, we just started.
Yeah, and so I know everybody was going, and I said okay. I said, well, I don't know how this is happening. You know, it might change situations, and I said, but I'll keep up with you guys. And I think Texas State extended another week of spring break, and then after
Right.
that, I think that's when everything just kind of shut down. And El Rey had called me like, I guess the day that the president announced for us to shut down for those 2 weeks or something. And they said there's nobody here, and so let's wait and see for next week. They called me the following week. They're like, we don't think nothing's going to happen. I said, well, I understand. I said, it looks like everything's shut down.
Yeah.
So I told them, well, give me a call, and once everything gets better,
Yeah.
and they haven't called back as of now.
Yeah.
They haven't called back, but we're hopeful that they're, depending on what happens with all this virus and stuff and how we're going to go back. But it has picked up with birthdays, and the bigger is the serenatas. So I get a lot of requests for 2 or 3 musician players, and then for 15 minutes at a time. And that's how we've been able to still work a little bit, right?
Yeah.
Now that it's opened up a little bit more, we've been able to go more as a group.
Well, I guess with everything else, you have to adjust. Just how we're adjusting with this new, I guess, lifestyle at the moment. I guess we would have to find ways to adjust in this mariachi working world too, and I think that's the hard part. Yeah, we kind of, I guess our systems kind of went into shock whenever work just stopped coming our way. We're like, well, shit, what do we do now? You know?
Yeah.
What's
Everybody's
there?
become accustomed, because mariachi is year round, but it's also in a way a kind of a seasonal thing for the people that don't do mariachi for a living. There's certain times of the year where it's just extremely busy. I remember last year in May, I played 30 out of the 31 days of the month, and that's a lot. That's playing Mondays, Tuesday, Wednesday, every day,
Mhm.
and then suddenly just nothing.
Yeah.
April is a really big month for weddings.
Yeah.
Mother's Day, I was still able to do Mother's Day, but not much.
Alexis, what happened was,
What happened was, I
what
left.
happened? Man, we were making money, and then Alexis said, I'm going to go back home. I'm going back home to McAllen. And do the people know where you're from?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Or are you going to edit this?
No, I mean,
Or you say, I'm going to go back to McAllen, all of that, and then the world stopped.
the whole world stopped when I left. Well, so would you say, there's a question. Have you pretty much only played in Austin? Have you gone to other cities, kind of actually played in those cities for multiple days or weeks?
With Amor?
No, just
With
you
any-
over your.
We
career.
went in Relámpago. We went twice to Olive Branch, Mississippi, which is quite a ways. This gentleman owned a restaurant. Well, I think he had several restaurants up there, and it's close to Memphis, Tennessee. And so his daughter was having a quinceanera, if I remember quinceanera, and he hired the group for I think it was like 4 or 5 hours. But he had this quinceanera at a convention center. I mean, it was huge. There was arena football going on in one area. There was prom going on in one area, and then there was her quinceanera going on.
Oh man.
And it was an open bar and all you can eat and so forth. And we thought it was a one-time thing. Then we went back for, I think it might have been a birthday party, and it was at his house. And so we went to his house, and the same thing, 4 or 5 hours, whatever it was. I think I went 2 times or 3 times. And one of those times I got really sick.
Oh no.
We got there, and I don't think you guys know, it was a violin player. He was sitting in front of me, and he said, oh, I don't feel good. My stomach hurts. And I said, well, don't eat. And we had just arrived. We went to a hotel, put our stuff up. We went to a restaurant because he was going to pay for our meal. So we went to a restaurant. And he was in front of me. He was telling me, oh, I feel sick, whatever. I said, well, don't eat, whatever. So I kept eating, right? And I guess later on that evening, probably about 11 o'clock, maybe around that time, I started feeling like a pain in my stomach. And I was like, oh, man. So I thought, okay, I'll be all right. And so I drank water and just relaxed in the room. And it was getting worse. And then I got nauseated. Then I got sick. And I was like, at the point, I was like, it was getting too painful. And I thought it was like kidney stones or something, right? Turns out at the very end, I mean, I called the ambulance, and I thought, okay, well, let me call the ambulance because I can't drive. I don't have a car out here. Mm-hmm. And so ER came, the emergency, they came and they took me to the hospital. But on the way up there, like, I was like in extreme pain. And I was like, can't you give me something for the pain? And they were like, no. And I said, but just give me something. I said, because it's very painful. And they said, well, they'll give you at the hospital. And I said, I can't wait to the hospital. So they injected me, I guess, with morphine or something. Mm-hmm. And then that really helped a little bit. And then after that, like pretty much the whole night, I was kind of in and out. And they came in and do some tests and stuff.
Wow.
And they ended up calling the guy that hired us. And they said, hey, somebody in the family got sick. And they're in the hospital and whatever. So they started getting alarmed and stuff.
Yeah.
And but anyway, I spent the night in the hospital, and then the next day, I guess maybe about 10, 11, somewhere around there, they let me go, from the hospital, and they told me that it was a stomach virus.
Yeah.
So that was a very strong stomach virus. So needless to say, I didn't play that day. But that was one of the I think we went 3 times. And then when I did Mariachi Amor, we got to go to New Orleans. So McDonald's had this pop-up event, and they were going to be going through different parts of Louisiana. And so that was, I think, maybe about a week-long event. And that was pretty fun. That was exciting.
Louisiana. That's cool.
Yeah, Louisiana.
Man, did you ever think, imagine you, 12-year-old, Mr. Castro's class, picking up trumpet the first time. You'll be traveling across the country playing mariachi.
No. None at all.
No.
That's one thing it could do for you. I mean, it's an opportunity to travel.
Yeah, I always tell my son in the traveling part, just what you're saying right now.
Mm-hmm.
The thing with mariachi, I think for the most part, all the mariachis, we all help each other in a sense. So, like if you were going to go to Albuquerque or Los Angeles or somebody would know somebody that has a mariachi over there, and they do the introduction, and they'd say, well, work with us this weekend.
Yeah.
So you can always find work that way.
Yeah.
With a referral, right?
There's always connections.
So you can take your vacation and play a couple of times and make a little bit of money.
Make some money to spend a good amount of money on dinner. Yeah.
High prices.
And that is very unique. I mean, it's very few professions where you can do that. You can just travel across the country and do what you're doing the night before, and pretty much seamlessly. I mean, they could have different arrangements, but it's going to be the same songs. You can figure it out if you're a well-rehearsed musician.
Yep.
You can't do that if you're, I don't know, working at HEB. I mean, another HEB would be the same, but you can't just walk in and be like, I'm going to take this shift.
They have different policies.
Yeah.
Too.
So that's great. I mean, there's times where I've played in McAllen the next day, I'm here in Austin the next day, I'm in Dallas, and I wouldn't know what I would be doing if it wasn't for Mariachi the last 5 years where I would be working. I don't think I would be happy at the Stripes. Those graveyard shifts, even though we do graveyard shifts with Mariachi. I mean, getting home at 4 a.m. I mean, what was that like? I mean, you still get home late sometimes, don't you?
What do you mean, from mariachi?
Yeah, like gigs.
Oh yeah, absolutely. I don't know if any of you guys got girlfriends.
Yeah.
But anyway,
Yeah.
that was always an issue, and I think it's always been an
yeah.
issue in mariachi with girlfriends and wives, because
Yes.
they're like, you're out there having fun, you know, and I'm out here
We're
watching television, and
We're working.
yeah, we're working.
We're
That's
working.
exactly, we're
Gotta
working.
work.
We gotta work. Gotta work. And that's one of the things that I know, that if I have a girl in the group that's married or has a boyfriend, like that's one of the first questions. Like, are they okay with it? You know, let me know if you can go like full on, full time, or you're gonna have some days that you're gonna have to tell me, hey, I can't make it this day, or I can't do it this way. Fortunately, I think everybody the girls that have been in the group have been single, or have
Fortunately
had a
for
boyfriend.
you.
Fortunately for me,
For
yeah.
the group.
For the group.
Yeah, for them.
But yeah, it becomes a problem. It's not that it becomes a problem. It's the way they see it. I know that, you know, going back to the days that we were playing a lot, and that I had a girlfriend, and it's a lot different now, I think, and I don't know how it's over there with Relampago going to Azul Tequila. You're still over there, right? Azul Tequila.
Well, at the moment we're
Well,
not
not
playing
now,
there right
yeah.
now. But yes, yeah, we still have it.
So, you know, with the restaurants before, it was different because they were more, when I say they, meaning the guest, sometimes you had the same people going. Like once we already had our rhythm with the Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, it's like you always had the same crowd showing up.
You got the regulars, yeah.
You got the regulars, and then you had those that would come in, and the girls would always love to touch the gala, right, on the side of your pant. They would always like, oh wow, look, you know, and so they're touching, right, and then they'd hug you, or they'd kiss you on the cheek. And did you tell the Esteban story or not yet? The laundromat.
The laundry. I did tell the laundromat
Yeah, he
story.
did. He told the story, but not that specific.
I didn't say
Part.
who was there.
You didn't
Oh.
say.
Well, we know 2 people
Edit.
now.
Edit.
3 people now. Is already
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
You said it's
3 people.
3 people that were there.
But yeah, I mean, they would go up to you, and
Yeah.
they were very flirty. And so when your girlfriend or your wife saw that, it's like,
Yeah, yeah.
Oh, yeah.
you're not doing this no more. You're
Yeah.
not doing this no more.
Yeah.
They don't appreciate it. They don't understand. That's
They don't
the problem. They
The
don't.
hard work.
They don't
The
see
hard-
how hard we work,
Yeah.
dancing, shaking
Yeah.
hands.
Yeah.
But so then, was there a lot of girls at the?
Absolutely not, Alexis.
No. So by the way, Alex is 5'11", 45 years young. He's got a muscular build, single looking.
There
Okay.
you go.
See, whoever wants, and he has his own mariachi group.
Yeah.
Own business owner. No, was there a lot of female mariachi players, or like late 90s, early 2000s, where you're still playing a lot?
There were not that many in Austin. I think San Antonio probably had more because of the school district that were coming out of the school, the high school system. So I think San Antonio had more girls than Austin did.
Oh,
And-
okay. So then was the key changes? What was that like now, playing all these songs in girl keys? Because now that's pretty common. You have to change your keys to. I mean, even sometimes you even have to do like stuff like La Ley del Monte and La, or whatever. Some songs
So
like that.
Maribel Guardia. Do you guys know who Maribel Guardia is?
No.
Singer?
No.
Okay. This was years ago. She got real mad at me because of that particular reason. One, some of the songs I didn't know, and then the other songs changed the key.
Mhm.
And on the spot, because they were doing a show, and we went to rehearse a few songs that she was going to do, and like I was lost, and she got after me, and I was like, okay. But that was my first experience into going into a lot of keys. The only one that we always did was La Reina es el Rey. So, like,
Okay.
that one I already knew. But you're right. I think with the school system, it's pushing out a lot more females.
Mhm.
And I don't know if it's something that's drawing them to the mariachi music itself, or that they know that they can be part of a, ensemble competition type group.
Mhm.
And so that's bringing the females into the mariachi. I know in the very beginning, like it was always all men, right?
Mhm.
Mariachi. The mariachi did not want a female.
Yeah.
I know that when I started, like no females, but we made an exception, and it was that's just what it was.
Mhm.
And all of that's changed now.
Yeah.
And there's still there's still mariachis that will always remain all male mariachi.
Mhm.
When Monica went over to Los Camperos, that was like a big thing because she was a female
Mhm.
in being with Los Camperos, right, and being out there. But before her, there was Rebecca, and Rebecca was with Mariachi Cobre. And this was the early days. This was going back to when Cobre started in Disney World.
Mm.
But I don't know the whole history with how Rebecca got involved with Cobre and then with Monica over at Los Camperos. But I think with that, showing that, and then with Linda Ronstadt coming out with her album, that kind of gave more of a push for females to be in the spotlight.
Mhm.
And you guys may experience this or not, but sometimes some clients will say, do you have a female in the group?
They request a female.
Some will request it, but some will ask, because if you have a girl, then they don't want you.
Yeah.
Oh.
So
Just
that-
specifically for that reason.
Yeah. So it's it's the clientele's. However they want to see the group, then that's how they want to hire the group, right?
Mhm. Yeah.
But
I
yeah,
think-
going back.
Oh,
go ahead.
Go ahead. I think that's crazy because I think somebody once told me because back then it was, a male dominant thing, mariachi. I don't know if this is right, but somebody told me once, is that why like girls, they have to have their hair like pulled back tight, like in a ponytail? They can't have it like down or anything, or
That's a good question.
because the way they worded it, I can't remember who it was, but the way they worded it is they wanted the females to look more masculine, I guess, or I don't know.
That
I don't know
sounds
if
like
that's-
true to me, because
Yeah.
they do pull their hair back, right?
Yeah.
That's what made them, I guess, in a sense, look masculine, right?
Mhm.
But I don't know if that was the particular reason that they
Right.
did, and I don't even know
Yeah.
who started that first.
Right,
Yeah. Which female mariachi or person, did that.
Mhm.
But you're right, it was male dominated, and the school system has opened that up. So
Mhm.
in the United States, you probably see a lot more that, I don't know if you guys ever, in your YouTube, when you're watching different videos, if you've ever, notated that difference, that when you see a mariachi group that you're looking at from Mexico,
Mhm.
a lot of the time it's all male.
Mhm.
And then when you start watching YouTube videos from the United States, you start seeing a mix. Mexico does have their female groups,
Mhm.
but as far as I know, and I'm sure there's some, but I don't keep up with it, but I'm sure there's some co-ed groups in Mexico that have female and male groups.
Yeah.
But you see it more common in the United States. You see, we're more accepting of it.
Mhm.
I'll tell you, Miguel Martinez, he said that he was very proud of the United States for wanting to learn the mariachi music and having classes in school to learn the mariachi music. And it's something that they did not do in Mexico. Like, we appreciated like so much compared to at that time
Mm-hmm.
than Mexico did, right? And I think with that passion again, going back to the school system, and maybe it was the competitions or something like that, and we are more accepting of it here, blending male female, because it's what we see. You know,
Mhm.
that's what came up in the school system. When I was in high school, we had females in the group, and you know, probably half and half male and half female. But to me, when I joined the group and the class and being there, my first thought was not this needs to be an all male mariachi. You know,
Yeah.
that was not my thought.
Mm-hmm.
And I guess we follow that pattern that we don't see a difference. Like whether if a girl plays in the group, okay, great, you know, and that's. But they're, you know, again going back to what we're saying about the clients. Sometimes they say, "Is there a girl in the group?" and they ask for a reason, because sometimes they might not want female in the group,
Yeah.
and that's understandable. Because some of these parties, you guys know, you know, especially if it's late night after 9, 10
Oh.
o'clock.
Yep. Prime
Yeah.
time.
You didn't tell them about the strip club, Alexis.
I have.
Make
Yeah.
sure you edit.
No, I've talked about the strip club.
Episode
was-
6.
That
Oh,
was.
I don't remember.
That was episode.
Stay tuned.
I don't remember what episode that was.
Yeah, me neither.
No, but yeah, I played with girls, and I mean it's fine. It's just sometimes throws you off with those key changes. But so do you have any plugs? Anything you want to promote? Anything going on with Mariachi Amor or your stuff going on? Any projects?
No new projects. I think staying the same. Well, for me, it's not really new. It's just going back to the basics because with this pandemic, trying to get the business, trying to get the performances and that, it's going to be different. And like Matt was saying, a lot of groups may not be playing because of whatever reason, right? They're either not taking the gigs or being cautious about taking gigs, or and then other groups are taking them. But I am being cautious as well. A lot of my performances are because of when the pandemic hit. Everything got moved to these months that are coming up: October, November, December, and then going into January. You know, the first half of next year. But as far as any new projects, there's no new projects coming up. It's still the same. Trying to get back into regular business, find out what all this virus is going to happen and what they're going to do about it and how it's going to affect us. And I think as long as we're safe, we'll get through it. But it's difficult.
Mm-hmm.
We don't know anything about it. We don't know too much about it. Well, Matt might.
Matt knows everything.
I know a decent amount.
No, but it's been good. It's been fun having you as a guest number 2 here.
Yes, thank you.
Yeah, thanks for coming out here all the way down the street from your house. But this, so yeah, so you follow Mariachi Amor at Mariachi Amor, right, on Instagram?
Yeah, all the social media. So early on, I did all at Mariachi Amor. So yeah, Instagram at Mariachi Amor, Facebook at Mariachi Amor, Snapchat at Mariachi Amor.
They
Pinterest.
got Snapchat. We don't even got Snapchat.
No,
Mariachi Amor.
I don't got Snapchat on my phone, man.
I don't have Snapchat.
I took it off.
so-
Yeah.
And you know, when TikTok came out, Mark Cuban talked about TikTok before it got like very big. But he
Mhm.
said this is going to be the next thing or whatever. So I downloaded TikTok. And I should have opened at Mariachi Amor at the time for the TikTok. But
Uh-huh.
I think, is it banned already?
No.
No,
No, it's not there.
they were
I don't
going
think-
to, but it didn't.
I don't think they will.
It's still available.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's still available.
So probably on TikTok in the next couple of days. Follow at Mariachi Amor.
Yeah. Probably.
Well, good. I'm very proud of you guys for doing this podcast. I know I talked to Alexis a while back on doing a podcast, and but it was just a thought. But I think that you've already taken the initiative to do that. So the both of you taking the initiative to do
Well,
that.
it was really him. I think one day he was just joking about it because the other one, Charro Beans, by Sammy,
Mhm.
Sammy and Victor, they're doing one theirs up north, and he had just mentioned like, hey, Sammy took my idea, man, because he did. Alexis, we would go to gigs and stuff when I was in the group, and he mentioned it a few times.
Yeah, at that time I already had my camera and everything.
Yeah.
I was vlogging some stuff,
Yeah.
but I never really put it out there.
Yeah, and so when he came back, he was like, "You ready to start the podcast? I bought some stuff, this and that." And I thought he was joking. I thought it was a joke. I never. And literally, probably the next day he showed up, back in town. He was like, "Hey, so you want to record tomorrow or something?" Or I was like, "Sure." And at that time, I still thought he was kidding. I didn't. And then he showed up with everything.
It wasn't until I showed up to his house, set everything up, then press record.
And I said, "Oh, you're serious?" Shit. Yeah. So I think he's done a good job with all this. I just work here.
He just shows up sometimes.
Yeah, sometimes.
By the way, I mean, I know it takes a lot of work, so just in that, I mean, you guys took the initiative, you know, and that's the thing with you guys being, you know, in college and stuff. It's like you guys, you know, because this is in your majors, right?
Nope.
Nothing in engineering or anything like that.
Mm-mm.
I mean, I do industrial engineering, but this is audio engineering, completely different.
Yeah, but for you to take that into concept and to make it happen, I mean, it takes a lot of work. And before the podcast, we were talking about having to work afterwards, because it is a lot of work. You think that,
Yeah,
I mean,
yeah.
people listen to the podcast, they're like, oh, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
But there's a lot of work to it. There's the before, there's the during, and there's the after, the post, right?
Yep.
To make sure everything comes out well. But there's a lot of struggle. So I know that it's a lot of work and it takes a lot of time, and you guys come up with a lot of content, which is good. I did tell you, I'm on episode number 4, beginning. So I got to listen to episode 3 and 4. I don't know what happened, but that's where I'm at right now.
Yeah.
But you're almost caught up.
Almost caught up.
Yeah, I just kind of wanted to give a perspective of what it's like, you know, Central Texas, my experiences in Austin, and I mean, I've played all over the state, and then I started thinking, I was like, well, I mean, let's get people who have way more experience than, I mean, both of us, and so that's then I started wanting to have weekly guests, and so yeah, I mean, I was wanted to have you from the beginning. I knew I was gonna have you on this podcast.
You actually asked me.
I did.
You were talking about the podcast. I said, "Oh, really? You're gonna have?" And you're like, "Yeah, you can be my first guest." I said, "Well, let me know when it's going."
Yeah.
And here I am, 11 episodes later.
Yeah.
Is it 11?
11. Yep.
Episode 11.
This is 11.
This is. But so this has been episode 11 for Los Mariachi Sagas. Again, I want to thank Alex Ramirez from Mariachi Amor for coming, being our guest. Matt, I'm Alexis. And follow us at Los Mariachi Sagas and stop giving us 1-star ratings.
We'll see you, everybody.
Right. Come on, guys.
Los Mariachi Sagas. Los Mariachi Sagas.